Electricity Minister Dr. Kgosienstho Ramokgopa and Eskom CEO Dan Marokane are answering questions at the Human Rights Commission inquiry into load reduction. Let's listen in.
Load reduction, because this is the framework within which we work with distribution license. I'll then deal with the issue of illegal connections, and that the fact in law is that there's a requirement that everyone who receives electricity should be a lawful customer. And I know that there's been conversations around the issue of self-connection, which is a method that does not exist within the Act itself or any of the codes. I'll also address the issues of the notices, the PAJA notices that Eskom issues. And when we understand the nature of the risk, we'll then understand that there is very dynamic monitoring of what is happening in the space. We'll give you a sense of what is it that we look at from a technical perspective that gives us a sense of what are the windows that we should be looking at. It's not an absolute science, but there's some considered views in terms of when is the infrastructure likely to be under pressure, because we understand that the demand cycles for the course of over a 24-hour period. We also submit to the Commission that to assist the Commission in terms of tackling this key issue, that the participation be broadened quite widely with the municipalities. They also carry quite a significant impact of this. We also think that the issue of free basic electricity could also be given a lot more help to the Commission by the National Treasury in this phase. When we conclude, we really draw towards the point that we can only defeat this issue through coordinated cooperation from all stakeholders, because we understand what the solutions are. We need to be able to own it up, move towards implementation, and hold ourselves accountable in as far as the timelines for delivery and collaboration is concerned. This is defeatable, and the Minister, I concur with the Minister that we have gone through the most difficult part of ensuring that our generation assets are able to give us the kind of reliability that we need. This is defeatable with the collaboration of all stakeholders. So let me start off with regards to load reduction. This issue has been made repeatedly. We're experiencing a significant equipment failure, amongst other reasons, the overloading of the equipment. It's now taking us, as I said, on average 6 months to replace transformers, and the waiting list is getting longer and longer. There's cost associated with this. Mondo may be able to give you a sense of what these numbers look like. Now, from a technical point of view, the overloading is explained as when an equipment transformer starts to operate above the legal safety limits, and that is as a result of the demand being pulled from it being higher than its design. You start getting to a point where your inbuilt safety systems will kick in and trip the equipment. But what we see in the areas where there's illegal connections, even those safety measures are bypassed. The end result are many pictures that you may have seen of this equipment exploding, causing fire, damaging infrastructure, and also bringing health and safety risks. Load reduction is not of generation capacity. Generation capacity is there, is adequate. We talk about the system updates on a regular basis. This is localized. It's localized to an area where the prevalence of illegal connection is high. The prevalence of meter bypassing is high. And as a result of that, there's a mismatch between the installed capacity and what the demand at that localized point is looking like. Unfortunately, in that space, you also have customers that may be paying, that are doing the utmost best to remain, responsible citizens. But the design of the network as it sits does not allow you to be able to isolate them as it sits. There are solutions to move towards that point with the associated costs. When we are faced with a situation of equipment overload like this, a prudent distributor, and I dare say a prudent municipality in this case who's got a distribution license, is called upon to protect the equipment through load reduction. It's a non-voluntary network infrastructure protection tool. It's used by the distributor to cap network overload to arrest the loss of equipment. The loss of equipment, as I've already said, and it does bring about interruptions in the short term, but it avoids prolonged interruptions to the consumer or even loss of life on a longer term basis. So these are the trade-offs that we're having to deal with within the context of the technical equipment that we have. I've already alluded to the fact that all the networks have got protection mechanisms built in them, but these are also bypassed in many of these instances, and hence leading to these issues. Let me deal with the issue of the law on load reduction itself. And as I said, we have really referenced quite extensively in our submission the Electricity Regulation Act, which provides the single comprehensive legislation which gives effect to how a customer can receive electricity from Eskom. And I just want to also put on record that the ERA provides under Section 3 that NERSA, the National Electricity Regulator of South Africa, is the custodian and enforcer of the National Electricity Regulatory Framework. So all of us are governed by this Act. NERSA is an enforcer. NERSA looks from time to time at the extent and level to which we comply with license conditions. NERSA also issued Eskom with licenses in order to operate its distribution and transmission operations. And these licenses state very clearly that the licensee shall comply with the grid code in as far as the code applies to any of its operations, except where exemptions and derogations have from time to time been approved by the National Electricity Regulator. So to this end, the licensee shall ensure that all connections and use of system contracts with the licensed transmitter are compliant with the grid code. So as an operator, we have obligations under the regulatory framework to ensure compliance with the grid code at all times. The grid codes are, of course, developed within the context and powers that come from the ERA itself to the regulator. Load reduction, we argue, has justifications in the ERA, which states that the licensee must operate network efficiently and in a sustainable manner. So in terms of the licenses, Eskom must comply with the codes, rules, laws, and other regulations applicable to the operation of the distribution facility. We, as a licensee, must take all reasonable practical steps to protect the environment and safety in the course of operations associated with this license, including, but not only, those specified in health and safety and environmental legislation currently in force and not specifically related to the operation of distribution. We are also governed by the Occupation Health and Safety Act of 1983 for us to provide an environment that is safe and without risks to the health of employees by taking steps to eliminate potential or any hazards before resorting to personal protective equipment. So there's a framework within which we operate as a responsible licensee with regards to our distribution business. And it is this that I really want to come back to and locate this issue of load reduction in that context. The distribution system operating code states, and I'll just sample a few things. The distributor shall operate the system to achieve the highest degree of reliability and shall promptly take appropriate remedial action to relieve any condition that may jeopardize reliability. Coordinate voltage control, demand control, operating on a distribution system, and security monitoring in order to ensure safe, reliable, and economic operation of the distribution system. The distributor may shed customer load to maintain system integrity. The distributor shall establish and implement operating instructions, procedures, standards, and guidelines to cover the operation of the distribution system under normal and abnormal system conditions. The distributor shall operate the distribution system within defined technical standards and equipment operational ratings. The distributor shall have the right to interrupt or disconnect supply if a threat of injury or material damage is anticipated as a result of the malfunctioning of the electrical installation equipment on the customer premises or on the distribution system. And Chairperson, there's some Supreme cases that we have cited in the documents that really enforces the obligations on the part of us as the licensees. There have been some test cases put forward. These codes form part of license conditions and oblige licensees, including ourselves, to adhere to these prescripts. And I do not want to go into them at this point in time. They are in our files in detail. What's important is that ourselves...
All right, let's come out of that inquiry. Of course, the Electricity Minister, Dr. Kgosienstho Ramokgopa, as well as the CEO of Eskom, Dan Marokane, answering questions there at the Human Rights Commission inquiry.